First off, let's get this out of the way. This video is not trying to say Diablo 4 endgame is good and fine and does not need additions, right? Let's all agree Diablo 4 endgame is a bit barren, it's a bit of a void, and it needs a bit more. I just don't think War Tier 5 is gonna solve any of the issues if it's another War Tier as we know it. Hey, let's talk a little bit, right? So we have a graph here, right? Very well high made graph. I spent all morning on it, right? So you have your power right on the left, which is also kind of like your interest and fun in the character, right? A little bit. And then you have your level, right? 10, right? It's pretty simple. You start down here, right? You got no power. From 10 to like 20 to 30, it's a pretty steady increase upwards, right? You're just getting access to more buttons on your bars, passives, whatever. Around level 30, you probably enough mats to start experimenting with your aspects a bit. You get a few of your aspects, you get like a decent spike, and then it kind of flatlines a little bit until you go do the capstone at 50. I mean, I know people do capstone 45 or whatever, right? But you do the capstone, let's say for argument, at level 50, right? A little flatline here. At 50, you gain access to Sacred, and you gain access to uniques and new aspects, right? You get a pretty big spike in power and interest into it flatlines again, somewhere around 60. I know this, again, around this point is when people do War Tier 4 content, right? They go to the capstone and get War Tier 4. But again, let's just say it's level 70, right? Now you have your Ancestral Gear, right? You have your Ancestral Gear. You get another spike of power for like 5 or so levels, and then you flatline. Maybe just a tiny increase. You have all the main roles you want. You're just fishing for higher gear, higher roll effects. It's pretty much a flat line to 100, right? It's a flat line to 100. There's a pretty big void in this area right here. I think we can all agree with that, right? I know looking at this graph, you might just say, oh, well, there was a pretty consistent spike here, here, and here that was ward tiers. Why not just add another one? Right, let's just add one. So instead of just flatlining around 80, you get another spike of gear, and you go with War Tier 5. Let's call it Primal. I don't know, right? Something like Primal. You go up here, right? Somewhere around here, you get War Tier 5. The issue with this, in my opinion, right? If there was a War Tier 5, right? This is War Tier 5. Let's say this is War Tier 4. But the issue with this is what this might look like it solved the void, right? It looks like it's much shorter. Right, this graph is just showing you if it's by level, right? 80, 90, 100, if it's all the same, right? But like the reality fact is, unfortunately, that this is, this is the halfway point, 85, right here, right? This is the halfway point, right? This is what it looks like with a War Tier 5. There's still a massive void here of you doing the same thing. You're just pushing it forward like 10 levels or so. So it's not that it doesn't help, right? It helps a little bit. It just isn't gonna do much, right? If you just end up finding a primer gear set here, you still have a massive void here that is just not being solved by that. And on top of that, this happens from War Tier 3 to 4. You may not have noticed it. You're gonna notice it next time for sure. Let's say you get a sacred pair of gloves that have crit chance on them, lucky hit, attack speed, whatever. That piece of loot only feels good for a few levels. And once you know that, which you're gonna know next time, it's not gonna feel great getting that because in 5 levels, you gain access to War Tier 4, and War Tier 4 is gonna drop your Ancestral Gear. And Ancestral Gear is just gonna be immediately better, right? So, and that's fine to do once, in my opinion, but the second time, it's gonna feel even worse, right? So, making a War Tier 5, a new set of gear prime or whatever, only makes this gearing process feel worse to make this feel a little better while leaving this void untouched, right? It gets left untouched. In my opinion, a War Tier 5 is going to add just as much as it takes away, assuming, again, it is a new set of gear, right? The only way you fix this void is by adding new and interesting endgame gameplay loops, right? Stuff like that is needed. Or, War Tier 5 could not be a new gear set. War Tier 5 could be, new uniques, new aspects, new gems, etc. If that's the case, I don't know why you wouldn't just add it to War Tier 4, right? Just add it to word tier 5, word tier 4 rather. Don't add it to 5. If the idea is word tier 5 helps you level to 100 faster, which I know a lot of people are obsessed about right now. And like, let's just take a second here. What's waiting for you level 100, right? You got Uber Lilith, which is a fun spike, and then nothing, and then you're just done, right? Like this is like peak end, right? You got like Nightmare Push and whatever like that, but like for most players, this is like the peak end of your character, right? And I get why rushing 100 feels like is a goal or whatever, and incentivized because it's a number to aim for. But like you need to be focusing on this void here. We need to be updating this void, right? Right, because this is Lilith, right? And it spikes and it drops, right? And I'm not saying this void should not be made easier, XP wise and time wise. That's fine to me. If word tier 5 does that, cool. In my opinion, just again add that to word tier 4. Just add that to word tier 4. If that was the goal of it, to make XP shorter, just change it to word tier 4. Word tier 5 of a new set of gear just makes this feel worse, to make this small bit of game feel a little better. It's not enough, right? What we need is not a word tier 5. What we need is somewhere around like level 85. There should be like 4 or 5 capstone dungeons that you can earn a key to, an entrance to, right? This is just a quick suggestion. I'm not a dev, right? I'm not paid for this. I'm not as smart as the devs. They can figure it out. But like in my opinion, a gameplay loop like this would be much better in word tier 5, right? Something like there's a boss system now, right? I farm at Namru dungeons to get sigil powder, to get a key. I can craft the key, right? Or just make it a key drop. I don't know. They can figure it out. They can figure out the details. And then I can choose, the key to make to enter one of 5 capstone dungeons. And the capstone dungeons should give me, when I beat the boss, it should be an interesting, unique boss. And when I beat it, it should give me access to small but meaningful power, right? Maybe this boss, right, drops a new tier of gems, like the Jewel Crafter, right? I can now upgrade my gems to ultra flawless royal grandmaster quality, and I get a small guaranteed power spike. Maybe this boss has, a chase item attached to it, like a 10% chance to drop a unique gem that does something wonky, like 5% of my damage is now fire, or 5% of my damage is now burning. Also, while we're at it, make that gem level 1, so it's usable in alts, right? So I can get on my alts and make cool builds of them, right? Stuff like that. Maybe this capstone is worth repeat farming because it has a higher chance to get 820 gear or something, right? So I can kind of target farm more 820 rares or something, right? Because that changes this endgame spike here to be something like, oh yeah, a couple levels, I'm just getting a tiny bit of gear. Oh, and then I do a capstone and I get more gem tiers. And now, back to flatlining a bit. Oh, and now I go do this boss and it's a little bit more engaging, and I farm it for a gem. And maybe after 3 or 4 entries, I finally get it and I pop off a little bit. Oh, maybe this, boss does this and I pop off, and stuff like that would make the endgame feel much better than a word tier 5 as we know them. Right now, it's possible word tier 5 is not going to add, another set of gear to farm. But just add whatever it is to word tier 4. And I know word tier 4 is already a pretty big time investment for a seasonal game for a lot of people. It just is for a lot of players. And you pushing it to word tier 5 just makes it even worse. Oh, while we're at it, these bosses can be like level 85 or whatever. Add Uber versions of them. 2 birds, 1 stone. Add a Uber version of every boss that they add a capstone version of, and just make it drop a cosmetic or something. So if there's another thing to go do for funsies, at the end. Just do stuff like that. That would be a much better solution to this void, because it isn't about hitting 100. It's about the fun going to 100. When I'm playing Path to Exile, very casually by the way, I'm never worried about hitting 100. I'm worried about going to kill the next boss.